We, Homo sapiens, often pride ourselves on being the great builders of this planet, designers of soaring cathedrals, mighty dams and sprawling cities. We imagine our architecture as something that sets us apart from the rest of the natural world. But this belief reveals more about our ego than about reality. Other animals, too, are home to architects, some with wings, some with claws, some with no eyes at all, who shape the world with a mastery we are only beginning to understand. From the precise geometry of a beehive to the engineering marvel of a beaver dam, the wild is filled with constructions that are not only functional, but breathtaking in their ingenuity. Perhaps it's time we looked not down at nature, but across to it, with humility, curiosity and awe. Because architecture is not just a human endeavor. It is a language spoken by life itself. In the vast, sun-scorched grasslands of northern Australia, towering monuments rise from the earth, slender, stone-gray structures, eerily aligned like a field of forgotten gravestones. These are not relics of an ancient civilization, but the living architecture of Amitermes meridionalis, better known as the magnetic termite. Each mound, shaped like a blade wedged into the ground, is oriented precisely north to south. This remarkable alignment is not aesthetic. It's a feat of thermal engineering. By narrowing their flanks to the midday sun and embracing the gentler rays of morning and evening, the termites master the elements to maintain a stable, humid microclimate within. Inside, hidden from the world, up to 1 million termites live in quiet cooperation, workers, soldiers, kings and a single queen, all sheltered within a labyrinth of chambers crafted from earth, saliva and precision. While the rains turn the land into a floodplain, the colony retreats into its fortress, safe and dry, surviving on stores of sun-dried grass collected during the dry season. These termite mounds, some reaching 4 meters tall, are more than shelters, they are living machines. Cooling systems, food storage, nurseries and barricades, all in one structure built by sightless architects with no formal training, only instinct, coordination and time. To call this a termite nest is to miss the poetry. It is, in every sense, a cathedral of nature, humble in material, brilliant in design. Hidden in the hollow of a tree or nestled in a beekeeper's wooden box, a hive of the western honeybee pulses with quiet intensity. At first glance, it seems simple, a waxen structure, golden and humming. But inside lies one of the most sophisticated societies on Earth, and one of its most elegant feats of natural engineering. A honeybee colony is a superorganism, thousands of individuals working as one mind, one purpose. At its heart is a single queen, attended by loyal workers and guarded by short-lived drones. But what they build together defies imagination. The beehive. Constructed entirely from wax secreted by their own bodies, the bees shape this material into perfect, repeating hexagons, each a cell with no wasted space, no unnecessary weight. Mathematically, the hexagon is the most efficient shape for tiling a surface with equal partitions and minimal material. The bees do not know this, they embody it. Every comb they build is a masterpiece of structural economy. These hexagonal cells serve multiple roles: nursery, pantry, vault. In them, the bees store not only their precious honey and pollen, but also the future, eggs, larvae and pupae that will carry the hive forward. The orientation, spacing, and temperature control of the hive are all finely tuned by the workers through movement, wing fanning, and even sound. Temperature in the brood area is kept within a narrow range, around 35 degrees Celsius, even as the world outside sways between heat and frost. And unlike human cities, which often sprawl with concrete and waste, the beehive leaves no pollution in its making. Every gram of wax is recycled, every drop of nectar transformed. When a hive dies or is abandoned, nature reclaims every bit of it, no scars, no ruins. In a time when architecture often comes at the cost of the environment, the honeybee reminds us of another way, building not against nature, but as part of it. Their hive is not just a shelter, it is a memory, a womb, a storehouse, and a monument to cooperation. Beneath the surface of quiet streams, a hidden artisan goes to work, the Catisfly larva, weaving its tiny masterpiece from silk and stone. Using silk threads secreted from glands near its mouth, it constructs a mobile case, part armor, part home, meticulously adorned with grains of sand, fragments of leaves, twigs, seeds, and even snail shells. Each case is unique, a mosaic of the larva's environment, built not for beauty, but for survival. As it grows, the larva extends the front of the case, trimming the rear to maintain perfect balance, a moving shelter in which it breathes, feeds and hides. Open at both ends, the tube draws water through like a natural ventilator, bringing oxygen across the larva's gills in a constant flow. In low-oxygen streams where other aquatic insects falter, the caddisfly thrives, its architecture doing what lungs cannot. Some species abandon mobility for strategy, building fixed retreats or silk nets anchored to stones, designed to trap drifting food from the current, underwater spider webs made by a creature without legs for spinning. Others build domes of silk and gravel they carry like turtle shells, grazing algae from sunlit rocks in peaceful anonymity. No concrete, no steel, no waste, only found materials repurposed into functional, elegant designs. In the world of the caddisfly, even the smallest life leaves behind not a trace of pollution, but a legacy of invention woven seamlessly into the flow of water and time. High in the forest canopy, an empire begins with a single queen, winged and alone. After her nuptial flight, she retreats to a quiet leaf, where she births a future army from her own body, losing more than half her weight to nourish the first larvae. 30 days later, the first workers emerge, and the building begins. Weaver ants are nature's aerial engineers. Using living leaves as scaffolding and the silk of their own larvae as thread, they stitch together nests that hang like green lanterns in the trees. These nests are not isolated shelters, but nodes in a vast, three-dimensional network, dozens, even hundreds, of connected chambers spanning entire branches. The ants flow between them like blood through veins, tending brood, guarding the queen, and expanding their living fortress leaf by leaf. Their colonies are fortified strongholds, fiercely defended. Entire borders of no-ants land form where rival colonies meet, marked not by fences, but by combat and scent. As predators, weaver ants hunt in coordinated strikes, capturing insects far larger than themselves with military precision. The forest is not their backdrop, it is their raw material. In every stitched seam and vibrating leaf lies a truth: intelligence is not always individual. Sometimes, it is collective, and it builds in silence, from above. In the quiet warmth of spring, a solitary wasp awakens, Polistes gallicus, the paper architect. She selects a sheltered ledge or branch, then begins her work, mouth full of chewed plant fibers softened by saliva. From this improvised pulp, she fashions the first stalk, a thin pedestal anchoring her delicate creation to the world. With patience and precision, she sculpts hexagonal chambers, each one perfectly symmetrical, open to the air yet strong against wind and rain. This paper fortress, crafted without fire or tools, resists weathering through the natural strength of silk and cellulose combined. Each cell becomes a cradle for life, one egg, one larva, one adult, then more workers arrive, all daughters of the queen, expanding the nest in tiers like an open-air cathedral. The structure grows steadily through summer, sometimes surpassing 1,000 cells, a testament to communal effort and silent labor. Unlike the sealed hives of bees or the subterranean halls of ants, this nest floats exposed, vulnerable yet defiant. Its fragility is its genius, light, breathable, renewable, and built entirely from what the landscape offers. When the cycle ends, the nest is abandoned, returning gently to dust, no ruin, no scar. Just the echo of a civilization made of paper and instinct, soon to rise again with the spring. In the quiet hours between larva and flight, a transformation begins, hidden, silent and encased in silk. For the zygonid moth, this in-between state is not a mere pause in life, but the construction of a temporary sanctuary, the chrysalis. Spun from the mouth of the caterpillar, fine silk filaments form a protective shell, a structure at once fragile and resilient, light as breath, yet able to shield the volatile alchemy of metamorphosis. Zygonids are not ordinary moths. Their lives are painted with warning, metallic hues, slow deliberate flight and the persistent presence of hydrogen cyanide in every tissue. Even in the cocoon, they are defended, both by chemistry and by craft. Many species, especially in the subfamilies Chalcocinae and Zygonini, spin their chrysalises with remarkable finesse, tight, pearlescent capsules often suspended under leaves or nestled within a silk-woven fold of vegetation. Within these silken vaults, muscles dissolve, organs rearrange and wings form in complete secrecy. The chrysalis holds this mystery with stunning efficiency, aerated but sealed, suspended but stable. It is architecture shaped not by hands, but by inherited instinct and molecular precision. Beneath the stony hillsides of the Mediterranean, hidden from view, Teneisa sauvagese builds a home not above ground, but beneath it, a vertical tunnel sunk into the soil, sealed with a perfectly hinged lid. This is no ordinary burrow, it is a masterpiece of stealth and silk. From the moment the spider selects a patch of earth, she reinforces the walls of her tunnel with fine, water-resistant silk, lining the vertical shaft like a velvet sheath. At the surface, she constructs a circular trapdoor of soil and plant matter, held together with spider silk and camouflaged so flawlessly it vanishes into the landscape. A silk hinge allows it to snap shut with precision, protecting her from predators and sealing in the cool, humid air of her subterranean world. By day, she waits silently, her front legs just beneath the door. When a vibration trembles through the silk strands radiating from the entrance, she explodes upward, grabbing unsuspecting prey and dragging it back into darkness before the trap closes again. No web spans a bush, no net is cast into the wind, her silk serves not to ensnare, but to conceal, to fortify, and to ambush. Each tunnel may take days to perfect, and once complete, it can serve the spider for years. With minimal material and maximum effect, this spider reminds us that architecture is not only about visibility, it can also be about invisibility. Hidden beneath our feet is a silk-framed world of patience, silence and deadly precision. In the delicate spiral of its orb web, Cyclosa weaves not only silk, but illusion. Unlike other spiders that vanish into foliage or shadow, Cyclosa makes its web a gallery of debris, insect carcasses, husks and dust woven into a vertical line down the center. This trash line isn't clutter, it's camouflage. Positioned among the detritus, the spider disappears in plain sight, its slender body mimicking the discarded shells that surround it. Some species, like Cyclosa mulminensis, go further, constructing decoys that mirror their own shape, fooling predators like wasps into striking the wrong target. Others, like Cyclosa tremula, vibrate rapidly when disturbed, blurring into their own artwork of prey remains, tricking the eye into seeing nothing at all. Each web is a study in misdirection, a carefully engineered stage where the spider becomes both architect and phantom. Even the direction the spider faces breaks the rules. Where most orb weavers look downward, Cyclosa often faces up, scanning the sky for danger. Their webs may be small, but they are rich with function, trap, shelter, disguise and decoy in one. In Cyclosa, nature reveals a subtler kind of brilliance through strategy, deception and silk spun with intent. In the dim silence of tropical caves, where light seldom reaches, the edible nest swiftlet builds its home from the most intimate of materials, its own hardened saliva. With no twigs, no leaves, no borrowed fragments from the forest, this bird weaves its bracket-shaped nest directly onto vertical stone, layer by layer, using nothing but strands secreted from its beak. Suspended like porcelain crescents on rock walls, the nests glisten pale and translucent, delicate, yet strong enough to cradle the future. They measure no more than 6 centimeters across, but each one is a marvel of precision, clinging to bare stone where gravity rules and the wind never rests. These birds never touch the ground, living almost entirely in the air, clinging with short legs to cliffs and cave ceilings. They navigate the dark with a subtle, rattling echolocation, one of the few birds in the world to do so, returning each night to these strange, speechless sculptures of spit and instinct. In parts of Southeast Asia, these nests are prized as delicacies, boiled into bird's nest soup, their worth measured in hundreds of dollars per gram. Entire urban buildings have been repurposed as Swiftlet hotels, echoing with artificial calls meant to lure the birds and harvest their homes. But beyond commerce and legend, the Swiftlet's nest remains one of nature's purest constructions, a structure born entirely from the body, a cradle grown in darkness, fragile yet enduring. Ruby-throated hummingbird barely the size of a ping-pong ball and built high in the canopy, the nest of the ruby-throated hummingbird is a triumph of miniaturized architecture. Suspended on a thin, downward-sloping branch, sometimes no thicker than a pencil, it balances weightless precision with remarkable strength. The female, unaided, gathers soft bud scales and plant down from thistles or dandelions, layering them delicately with fine animal hairs to form the inner bowl. The exterior is masterfully camouflaged with flakes of lichen, held together by the elastic threads of spider silk, which allow the nest to expand as her chicks grow. Measuring barely 4 centimeters across, it is nearly invisible to predators, mistaken for a knot, a cocoon, or simply a blemish on bark. Yet this tiny cradle must endure wind, rain, and the ceaseless energy of its occupant, who hovers dozens of times per hour to feed her nestlings by regurgitating insects and nectar. Though ephemeral in size, the nest is often reused and repaired, its structure mended annually like a family heirloom. Some are built in trees, others, astonishingly, on wire loops or old extension cords. As the chicks grow and prepare to fledge, the silk-bound nest stretches just enough to hold them, until one day, with a blur of iridescent green, they vanish into the air, and the nest, like its maker, becomes part of the sky. High in the rarefied air of the Andean Altiplano, where lakes shimmer under an unforgiving sun and oxygen runs thin, the horned coot constructs one of the most monumental nests in the avian world. Unlike most waterbirds that float their nests on reeds or build close to the shoreline, the horned coot ventures dozens of meters into open water to erect an island of its own making. Pair-bonded for life, these birds haul hundreds, sometimes thousands, of pebbles from the lakebed to the surface, one by one, using their beaks and feet with unrelenting precision. Over time, they raise a submerged cairn until it breaches the water's surface, forming a solid base that can weigh over 1.5 tons. On top of this stone pedestal, they weave a soft bowl of aquatic vegetation, mostly algae, into which eggs are laid, safe from terrestrial predators and insulated from cold mountain winds. The result is a nest that resembles a miniature fortress, sturdy, deliberate and enduring. These nesting sites are reused and reinforced season after season, a generational project of avian labor. In colonies of up to 80 pairs, the pebble mounds dot the lake like floating citadels, each one a testament to patient engineering. In the open landscapes of South America, the rufous hornero, Argentina's national bird, sculpts one of nature's most iconic avian dwellings, the clay oven. This nest, round and domed like an adobe kiln, is crafted from a mixture of mud, dung, and plant matter that hardens in the sun to form a protective shell. Perched atop fence posts, tree branches, or urban lampposts, these homes stand as both shelter and symbol, engineered with purpose, endurance and unmistakable identity. Monogamous pairs collaborate over weeks or months to build each structure, layering handful after handful of wet earth in slow spirals. The entrance is placed with intention, often angled away from prevailing winds, leading into a narrow passage and then a rounded interior chamber where the eggs are safely incubated. The design buffers the nest from heat, rain, and predators, with its thick earthen walls acting as thermal and physical armor. Once a nest has served its season, it may be abandoned or restored, resulting in trees and posts often adorned with stacked generations of old ovens. In some cases, these legacy structures become miniature apartment blocks, co-opted by species like the saffron finch. Despite the modest size of the hornero itself, its nest is a lasting monument to avian ingenuity, solid, quiet and enduring, like the birds who built it. In the arid mallee scrublands of Australia, the Malifile male becomes a silent engineer, sculpting the earth into a masterpiece of instinct and thermodynamics. Each winter, he scrapes out a wide depression in the sandy soil, then begins to gather organic litter, leaves, twigs, bark, into a vast mound that may stretch 3 meters across. As the debris rots, it produces heat, and the male meticulously tends the pile for months, adjusting the composition, adding or removing sand, constantly monitoring the internal temperature with his beak. At the heart of this living incubator lies a carefully dug chamber, where the female lays her eggs one by one, sometimes weeks apart. The eggs are never warmed by the adults, but by the fermentation within the mound, which the male regulates like a biological thermostat. He adds soil in summer to insulate the chamber against searing heat, removes it when the internal temperature begins to rise too high. Each egg is massive, about 10% of the female's weight, and over the season, she may lay more than her own body mass in eggs. When the chicks hatch, they claw their way to the surface entirely on their own, emerging fully feathered, eyes wide open, and within hours are running and flying without a glance back. No parental care follows, each chick is alone from birth, as if the mound itself were both parent and protector. It is not a nest in the usual sense, but a natural incubator of sand, compost, and precision, an earthen machine animated by instinct and refined over millennia. High in the emerald canopies of Central America, the Montezuma oripendula weaves its legacy into the wind. Each female constructs a pendulous nest, a living cradle of vines, rootlets, and palm fibers, that dangles like a teardrop from the towering branches of tropical trees. Suspended 30 meters above the forest floor, these nests sway gently with the breeze, designed not only to cradle life, but to deter predators. Within vast colonies, sometimes numbering over 100, the nests hang in clusters, swaying chandeliers of meticulous design. The females are the architects, tirelessly binding the structure into an elongated pouch that can stretch up to 1.8 meters long. Only they incubate the eggs and feed the young, while males, massive and chestnut-crowned, engage in fierce contests for dominance. A single alpha male may monopolize nearly all copulations within the colony, a rare mammal-like mating system among birds. His booming, bubbling courtship display echoes through the canopy as females choose him not for beauty, but for power. Inside each nest, life begins in the shade, fed on spiders, lizards and soft fruits, brought beak by the attending mother. These hanging sanctuaries, ephemeral and exposed, remain among the most elegant expressions of avian architecture, a feat of instinct, engineering, and maternal devotion, swaying forever at the forest's edge. In the sun-scorched heart of the Kalahari, the sociable weaver builds not just a nest, but a living monument to cooperation and resilience. Draped across the branches of camel thorn trees or even perched on telephone poles, their communal nests swell into vast, haystack-like structures, some weighing over a ton and enduring for more than a century. Inside this sprawling architecture lie hundreds of insulated chambers, each home to a pair or small family, woven tightly from stiff desert grasses that defy both sun and chill. Unlike any other bird, the sociable weaver constructs a multi-generational fortress, a city in the sky, humming with life, strategy, and shared labor. The central chambers are warm refuges against icy desert nights, while the outer compartments offer cool sanctuary during scorching days. From below, the nest reveals a matrix of tunnels and entrances, each barely the width of a sparrow's chest, lined with sharp twigs that guard against snakes and other predators. Beyond its avian residence, this massive nest becomes a microhabitat for an entire desert community. Skinks, beetles, and even owls take refuge within its woven halls. Though fiercely defended, it is not immune to danger. Cape cobras may slither in, consuming entire broods, while fire and storms can collapse decades of careful labor. Yet the birds persist, driven by kinship and instinct, adding strand upon strand with each passing season. It is among the most extraordinary constructions in the animal kingdom, neither fortress nor hive, but a woven legacy of survival under an endless sky. In the shadowed understory of Australia's eastern forests, the male satin bowerbird constructs a courtship stage unlike any nest, a freestanding avenue of twigs, meticulously aligned and obsessively decorated. This structure, known as a bower, is not for raising young but for seduction, a theater of desire lined with objects of a very specific hue, blue. From parrot feathers to stolen bottle caps, berries to ballpoint pens, every item is curated to dazzle the eye of a passing female. The male, cloaked in iridescent midnight blue, performs ritualized dances in front of this shrine, puffing, prancing, and buzzing in a show of both beauty and bravado. Females, wary and choosy, visit several bowers before making their selection, often avoiding overly aggressive suitors. The bower, ephemeral and ever vulnerable, is frequently sabotaged by rival males, its destruction part of a silent, ongoing war of aesthetics. Yet despite this drama, only the female builds the actual nest high in the canopy, incubates the eggs, and raises the chicks alone. The male remains a performer, a decorator, a seducer, his contribution purely genetic, his art a form of biological persuasion. No bird, perhaps, blurs the line between architecture, performance and instinct quite like the satin bowerbird, whose courtship is as much a spectacle of culture as of nature. Among reeds and still waters, the little grebe, furtive and flame-throated in summer, builds a nest so delicate it floats like a secret on the surface. Constructed from aquatic vegetation, it drifts tethered among the stems at the water's edge, hidden from predators by both camouflage and clever design. The nest is a raft of softness, anchored low, perfectly suited to a bird whose legs are placed so far back it can barely walk on land. When departing, the adult instinctively draws plant matter over its pale eggs, an act of concealment both protective and precise. Each clutch holds up to 7 eggs, ivory-toned and vulnerable, but the danger is mitigated by the water itself, a moat for a nursery. Within days of hatching, the chicks, tiny and downstriped, take to the water, their instinctive paddling guided by the murmurs of their parents. In a display of tender vigilance, adults ferry their young on their backs, diving if threatened, resurfacing with passengers still in place. Even their call feels half-submerged, rising from reeds like a ripple of sound. The little grebe's nest is neither grand nor towering, but it is intimate, ingenious, and afloat, ephemeral yet enduring, built by a bird whose entire life is stitched into the surface of the water. Hidden in the stillness of pond and stream, the North American beaver constructs a home as complex as its instincts are ancient. The lodge rises from a mass of sticks and mud, haphazard only in appearance, yet engineered with a precision that defies its humble materials. With entrances submerged below the waterline, these dome-like shelters shield the beaver from predators and winter alike, the air inside remaining tempered even as ice forms thick above. Inside, 2 platforms rest above the water, one for drying off, the other for rest, both accessible only by swimming. In late autumn, beavers plaster their lodges with mud which, once frozen, hardens into a shell impervious to wolves, otters, and cold winds. A small air vent at the summit, unassuming but essential, allows fresh air to circulate through the chamber. Around the lodge, the beavers build dams to raise water levels, ensuring year-round access and safety, while nearby, underwater food caches of saplings and branches await the long freeze. These lodges are the heart of a beaver's world, nursery, stronghold, pantry, and sanctuary in one. To approach a beaver lodge is to stand before a quiet fortress, organic, breathing, and resilient, crafted not from bricks, but from memory, lineage, and the ceaseless rhythm of moving water. Beneath the quiet surface of fields and forest edges, the groundhog sculpts a hidden world of tunnels, its fortress, nursery, and refuge from the cold. With claws built for excavation and a nose attuned to dry, well-drained soil, it digs burrows that may stretch over 14 meters, plunging nearly a meter below ground. The nest chamber, softly lined with dried grasses and leaves, sits deep within, insulated from heat and frost alike. 2 to 5 entrances lace the surface, escape routes from foxes and coyotes, or simple, spy holes for cautious surveillance. In winter, the groundhog retreats to a separate, deeper burrow, where its heartbeat slows to a near whisper, and true hibernation begins, one of the few mammals in its range to enter such deep torpor. The architecture of its den is deliberate, a chamber for excrement, another for sleep, and an ingenious design that stays dry even during spring thaw. When young groundhogs prepare to leave, they often dig shallow, exploratory tunnels nearby, creating the illusion of a bustling village beneath the meadow. Though solitary by nature, the groundhog's abandoned homes become vital sanctuaries for rabbits, foxes, chipmunks, and even owls. In the groundhog's world, soil becomes shelter, and silence speaks of life preserved beneath the frost. Tucked high in the crooks of sturdy trees, the dray of the eastern gray squirrel seems a casual ball of leaves, but within lies a masterstroke of survival. Carefully assembled from twigs, bark strips, and dry leaves, it is then lined with moss, thistledown, grass, and feathers, transforming rough matter into a warm, insulated haven. Spherical and snug, the structure measures up to 60 centimeters across, built not only to cradle life but to shield it from bitter winds and soaking rains. These nests, often perched 6 to 15 meters above the ground, sway with the branches, but rarely break, evidence of their maker's precision and practice. In colder months, squirrels sometimes cohabitate, layering body warmth atop the nest's natural insulation, a rare display of social tolerance in an otherwise solitary species. When hollow tree dens are available, they are often preferred, warmer, darker, more secure, but the leaf-built dray remains a staple of gray squirrel architecture. Individuals usually maintain 2 to 3 nests, rotating among them, often abandoning one to rebuild or escape parasites. Infants born within are blind, furless, and utterly dependent, but the nest's layered structure keeps them safe from cold and cloaked from aerial eyes. Remarkably, a dray is not fixed to the season, it is a stage for births, a shelter from storms, and sometimes, a platform for death. Modest in appearance but intricate in design, the dray reflects the eastern gray squirrel itself, common at first glance, but full of wild ingenuity.